Am I the only one who isn't particularly surprised that this is where we find ourselves today? I don't think so. Am I disappointed in the result? I mean, obviously, but we all kind of saw this coming. As much as I've watched a bunch of different channels like Abbott and Preach and a bunch of different other people who are trying to talk about how, they got him dead to rights, they're going to get him, this guy's going to jail forever. We've seen history, we've seen how these things play out, and we know what happens when a super popular person with a super crazy amount of money ends up getting put on trial for doing terrible things, and then, we see what happens. I mean, all you have to do is look back at the O.J. Simpson case, and it ends up being the same thing. He was a super popular, crazy, loved football star who did a terrible thing and got away with it because all the influence and money and all of these things out in the world just cause these kinds of things to happen. Like, this isn't, I honestly don't believe that this is even a race thing, because I think in our modern society, racism for the most part is a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual bad thing, like the bad reasons why things happen in the world now, or at least in the United States. In the rest of the world, racism is still a really bad thing. I genuinely believe that here in the United States, we don't really think about it that much. The big problem in our country, this case right here highlights the big problem in our country, and it highlights the big problem why a lot of people are mad, because regardless of whether this one person got away with what they got away with, it highlights the fact that there are two different classes of people in this country. You have the rich people who are basically able to do whatever they want with little to no consequences, and the average everyday person who has to live by the rules or else. And this is why people have this angst against the super rich people in the world, because if the super rich people just lived their lives and had what they had and just did what they did and and that's it, I think most people would be able to live with that. The problem is that the rich people don't do that. I say the rich people as in the rich people who have these tendencies to do bad things. And the rich people don't hold their own people accountable. I think that's probably the biggest reason. There is always a small percentage of any group of people who are just going to be pieces of crap, and that's just the way that it is. Rich people included. Rich people especially, because they have more access and less consequences, apparently, because this is how this always ends up working out. And if the rich people of the world who don't do these things, which is probably the majority of them, they may not be the best people, but they're not out there doing this kind of crap. If the majority of the rich people who want to safeguard their security would actually, come together to make sure that people like this actually get their comeuppance, I think there would be a lot less anger and angst in this country. But the reality of the situation is that because they're rich and because they have the lives that they have, they don't really give a crap about anything but what they're doing. They don't give a crap about the people down here who have nothing or who have very little, and it causes animosity and anger. And then when people see things like this, where you hear all of these things where it's very clear that this guy is doing some pretty atrocious crap and needs to be, put behind bars for an extended period of time, and then the only thing he gets is basically what he's going to get. There's like a maximum of 20 years that he could get for this, but because of the way that this stuff works, it won't be anywhere close to the maximum, and because he's already served some of that time during the trial, he's basically going to get very little. Very little is going to happen to him. He's not going to learn his lesson. All he's going to have learned from this is that I have convinced everybody that I'm a good guy, and I made some mistakes, and I'll atone for my sins, and everything will be okay. And then he goes back to doing what he was doing, because nobody's going to continue. Like, for a little while. For a little while, people will pay attention to him. Then the public will get bored, and then he's just going to go back to being the way he was. It's the way it goes. It's just the way it goes. So, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that this is what happened. I have a mild sense of disappointment because, you wish that the justice system that we have would actually, play out in the way that it should, but it almost never does. If you have no money or resources or fame or anything to convince people to lean more towards your side, then you're kind of screwed. And if you do, then there's almost never any consequences for you. And as long as we live in a world where a large portion of our community is okay with that, then you're going to continue to watch as our society descends into further and more chaos, because it's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. You cannot have a system where people get unfair advantages. It's like, it's fine for you to have your money. It's fine for you to have your stuff. It's not fine for you to have the kind of power that gives you basically free license to do almost whatever you want and nothing happens as a result of it. That's it. So, I know I firmly believe that the reason why he ended up getting off is because he is such a beloved public figure, and most people don't want to believe that he is capable of doing the things that he did. They don't want to believe it. Even the people who, I'm sure there's people on the jury who don't even really know who he is, but because of the reputation that he has in the music industry and all these things, celebrity does something. Celebrity has an effect. It just does. Celebrity has an effect. So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it other than if you're surprised by this verdict, you don't really pay attention to anything that's going on. And, that's it. So, thanks for watching. Be sure to click the like button to subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. And check out our other videos to help the channel grow. So, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.